Hi, I'm Ron Bennett. I'm here to talk to you about the Phoenix Lander microscopic imager that I released some images, time-lapse movies in 2008 for YouTube. I found what I think is life on Mars. I'm not affiliated with NASA or JPL. Did this all on my own. I looked at all the images from the Phoenix Lander's microscopic imager back in 2008 to search for movements in the soil, starting from the first sol after the Phoenix Lander first landed. One sol is equal to one Martian day, similar to one Earth day. The Phoenix Lander landed on Mars close to the Arctic Circle near the North Polar region. Water ice was present in soil at the time it landed. Through thousands of images for several months until we lost contact with the lander at the beginning of its Martian winter. After visual evidence was confirmed about water sublimation on water ice in the soil, the thermal and evolved gas analyzer confirmed experimental evidence for the existence of water in the Mars regolith. My findings from time-lapse images were published in 2008, 2009. I made them available on YouTube. The time-lapse images showed movements of microorganism-like objects in the soil. After several years of looking at the images and gathering more information from the lander's data, I am convinced more than ever that there was life forms crawling around the microscopic imager. Investigating the images closer from the Phoenix Lander, my conclusion is that there was something weird going on there. It lived either below the surface on Mars before we dug it up, or the microbes on the lander and contaminated Martian soil by mistake. Whatever it did, I don't know how it got there. There are some extremophiles that can take the long, brutal journey to Mars. They can survive the vacuum of space, extreme heat, thousands of times more radiation than humans can. In 2008, the Phoenix Lander science team claimed that all the necessary nutrients to sustain life was found at the Phoenix Lander site. In fact, they claimed that this is a type of soil you'd probably have in your backyard. You might be able to grow asparagus pretty well, but probably not strawberries. That's a quote from them. With this being said, we must first look back in time to some previous findings that will help explain the reasons I came to the conclusions that the Phoenix Lander found life on Mars. This image here is a meteorite Allen Hill 84001 found in Antarctica in 1986. It is a meteorite that landed on Earth that was ejected from Mars. It was blasted off the surface of Mars in an impact about 15 million years ago. Impacted Earth roughly 13,000 years ago. In 1996, scientists announced that Allen Hill 84001 meteorite contained evidence of microscopic fossils of Martian bacteria based on carbonate globules that they observed. These microscopic fossils lived about 3.7 billion years ago, and when Mars was more of a wetter climate. With that being said, I'm going to move into the next images, the time-lapse images of Sol 70, which is about 70 Earth-like days after the Phoenix Lander landing. Because it is cold there, if these extremophiles are similar to what we find on Earth, then they are very slow-moving to conserve energy. Note the last 3 frames were taken about 50 minutes apart. Some people will tell you that there are several different ways these particles can move naturally or by design, by wind, by vibration, etc., etc. But I am convinced, after looking at the matrix of the lander, that this didn't happen on Sol 70 or Sol 123 when these images were taken. This is a Phoenix Lander microscopic imager, Sol 123, 123 sols after the Phoenix Lander landed. If you look close enough, you can see that these microscopic-like objects that are circled look similar to the tardigrades. Also note that there is a shadow under them, meaning that they are elevated. They are about the size of the smallest Earth-based tardigrade. It also looks like one of them is chasing the other one. If you look even closer, they appear to have legs on them. In the last frame, one of them appears to have a scorpion-like tail. Now we're going to zoom into the objects above them and look at what may be happening to them. If you look at the objects on the upper left, it moved down and looks like it, and the other circle object is transparent fluid-like. wait a minute, this can't happen on Mars. If objects are water-based because of cold and thin atmosphere, they shouldn't be either a solid or a sublimate to a vapor. That being said, if these lifelike objects had a high concentration of salt in them, like perchlorates, would not freeze right away. Also note that if they were dug up, they were taken out of their environment like fish out of water. The Phoenix Lander science team did confirm that they found water ice under the lander. Salty water ice, like perchlorates in them, were trapped under the soil, could form a thin, briny liquid because the soil has trapped all the water vapor and gases, creating pressure underneath. In other words, there was a thin film of briny water under the rover. Think of antifreeze you put in your car that could stay liquid in much colder temperature than water can. Now look at this circle of rock-like object as it moves slightly sideways. Look closely at the bottom of it. Does it have legs too, or is that some kind of gooey substance? How can this be happening on Mars? Very simple. The lander is heated up on a regular basis to keep it warm during the day and night. The lander also has a furnace on it that heats it up. When they use that, it retains the heat. So basically the lander itself is getting its own heat generated internally. Also, the solar panels are dark, so they absorb all the light coming in, and that releases some heat into the lander. So the lander is warmer than the surrounding area. It's also important to note the atmosphere is thin, so the lander would have heated up its own oven and retain that heat for a long time because of the thermos effect surrounding the lander. A vacuum similar to a thermostat. On Mars, just below its surface that is heated by the sun, the temperature can be much higher than the atmosphere 1 meter above it. The darker the soil, the hotter it can get during the daytime. So any extremophile life form on it would be shielded by the warmth of the lander during its short lifespan on the lander. If dug up in the soil, put on the lander, it gets heated up, and all of a sudden it springs to life. The tardigrade I showed earlier can survive the vacuum of space and go into hibernation-like state for up to 10 years. When the temperature heats up outside, it comes out in its hibernation-like state, move around to feed, reproduce, and then when it refreezes, they go back into their hibernation state. So basically those kind of life forms, if they're similar to what's on Earth, extremophiles, could survive the extreme temperatures there on Mars. In fact, scientists have revised ancient microbial life in ice over 750,000 years old. It grew and divided when the favorable conditions exist, when the ice melted. When we look in the oldest ice we can get our hands on, we still find there are cells living. They may be able to remain frozen like this almost indefinitely, according to Louisiana State University microbiologist Brent Christner. If what Christner said is proven out, then it could be said that it was truly a remarkable discovery with far-reaching implementations. In November of 2012, after drilling several kilometers through the Antarctica ice sheet, a place that was sealed off from the atmosphere as long as 25 million years, Russian scientists will test Lake Vostok for life. If they can revive microbial life from the ancient ice like what Christner did, then we have hope that we can do the same for Mars when weather conditions improve that melt the ice. Who knows, these microbial-like objects found under the Phoenix lander in the microscopic imager may have been revived when heated after being dormant for billions of years. I took the raw images off the NASA JPL website to make color images. I just stretched them a bit to get better detail. I looked at thousands of MERV rover images from Opportunity and Spirit rovers, and those images, time-lapse movies I made from the microscopic imager, I couldn't find movement similar to the Phoenix landers. The MERV rover's microscopic imager doesn't have the detail that the Phoenix lander does. In other words, you can't see down as far on the MERV rovers as you can on the Phoenix lander. In order to find microscopic life, you need to have the instruments to see them. The Phoenix lander had the instruments to only view the largest of microbial life forms. In this Phoenix lander microscopic image, a magnet attracted micron and nano-sized magnetic particles only. The particles were strongly magnetite. By connecting the dots between the Viking landers and the Phoenix lander, which all of them had so many magnetic particles, it leads me 2 miles below the surface of a South African gold mine to anaerobic extremophile rod-shaped bacteria. In 1998, Tommy Phelps, a staff member at Oak Ridge National Laboratory's wife, microbiologist Susan Spitzner, geologist T.C. Onstadt, Princeton University, and the rest of the science team found extremophiles 2 miles down in the South African gold mine that could live on Mars. They called them Tor-39. They were anaerobic, that's non-oxygen breathing, rod-shaped extremophiles that converts iron hydroxide to magnetic iron, or magnetite. These bacteria respire iron, Phelps says. Phelps says that these bacteria, when properly fed, form carbonates from carbon dioxide. That's key. Because biological form magnetite is similar to extraterrestrial magnetite in the Martian meteorite Allen Hill 84001. So there is a link between the gold mine microbes and Allen Hill 84001. Some scientists see this as evidence supporting the existence of past biological activity on Mars. Also, Tor-39 microbes form carbonates from carbon dioxide. Carbonates were also found at the Phoenix lander site. Coincidence? Maybe not. The Phoenix science team was surprised to find so many strongly magnetic particles under the lander. My question to the Phoenix science team is, were these magnetic crystals that were picked up by the Phoenix lander magnet similar to Tor-39 crystals that lived 2 miles down in the African gold mine? If the magnetic particles and carbonates found at the Phoenix lander site are similar to the African gold mine Tor-39 magnetic crystals, and Allen Hill's 84001 meteorite, then it would strengthen my case that the life-like objects moving around the Phoenix lander live on Mars today. After all, according to the Phoenix lander science team, under the lander had all the necessary nutrients to sustain life. What this information I'm giving you here today is, it'll get people to go back and look at all this information and to reanalyze it, because it's lost data. It's going to sit there. There's a few people are going to do papers and go back and get some of that information off of NASA JPL's website or the Phoenix Landing Science Team's data, and they're going to reanalyze some of the stuff, but I don't think they're going to look as close at the images as I did. So I welcome them to look at these images. We will someday verify if Allen Hill meteorite and these time-lapse images do show life. It's a process, a scientific process. I'm sure that a lot of scientists are going to say this information I showed you is an illusion. I don't believe it is. I believe it is some kind of life form on Mars, and only time will tell if I'm right or wrong. But with all of that said, I'm going to leave you with this thought. I'll let you decide what is real and what is illusion.